Imagine holding a coin in your hand that looks ordinary to most people. We're counting down the top 3 most valuable Susan B. Anthony dollars ever discovered, could be worth hundreds, thousands, or even millions of dollars, incredibly rare varieties and error strikes that collectors dream about. The story of the 1979 D-era Susan B. Anthony dollar is one of the most fascinating in all of modern American coinage. Imagine reaching into your pocket change, pulling out what looks like an ordinary dollar coin, and realizing it could be worth not just a few dollars, not just a few $100s, but in some cases thousands or even millions of dollars. That's the kind of excitement that surrounds this. Is not just another piece of metal, it's a piece of history, a coin that marked the first time the United States ever struck a small-sized dollar coin featuring a real American woman. But hidden among the millions produced in Denver in 1979 are the rarest errors and misstrikes. Let's set the stage. It was 1979, and the U.S. Mint was preparing to replace the bulky Eisenhower dollar with something smaller and more convenient for daily use. They turned to the image of Susan B. Anthony, the legendary suffragist who dedicated her life to women's rights. The coin itself was historic, but it had one problem: it looked too much like a quarter. Cashiers, machines, and even the public were constantly confusing it with the 25-cent piece. That meant most people didn't care for the coin. But what people didn't realize at the time was that some of the 1979 D Susan B. Anthony dollars struck in Denver had unusual characteristics, minting flaws, or die errors that would one day make them worth staggering amounts of money. Think about this. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of Susan B. Anthony dollars in 1979, yet only a handful of them carry errors so dramatic that they are considered once-in-a-lifetime finds. When collectors talk about the 1979 D-era Susan B. Anthony dollar, they are talking about coins with doubled dies, off-center strikes, filled mint marks, die clashes, planchet errors, and in some cases extreme anomalies that can turn a $1 coin into a prize worth hundreds, thousands, or even more. One of the most famous categories of 1979 D-era Susan B. Anthony dollar coins are the doubled dies. Imagine looking closely at the date or the lettering around the rim and seeing a ghost-like second image, as if the coin had been stamped twice. To collectors, this doubling isn't a flaw, it's treasure. A strong double die on a 1979 D Susan B. Anthony dollar can fetch hundreds of dollars, sometimes more, depending on how visible and dramatic the doubling. But it doesn't stop there. Off-center strikes are another rare type of 1979 D-era Susan B. Anthony dollar that collectors drool over. Picture a coin where the design wasn't struck right in the middle, but instead shifted, leaving part of the planchet blank. A slight off-center strike might bring in a few $100s, but if the coin is off by 40%, 50%, or more while still showing the date, the value skyrockets. Some of these off-center 1979 D-era Susan B. Anthony dollars have been auctioned for well over $5,000 to $7,000 simply because they are so unusual and rare. $9,000. Now let's talk about planchet errors. These happen when the blank piece of metal used to strike the coin wasn't prepared correctly. Some 1979 D-era Susan B. Anthony dollar coins have been discovered on the wrong metal stock, struck on planchets meant for quarters, nickels, or even foreign coins. Imagine owning a Susan B. Anthony dollar that was struck on a copper nickel-clad quarter planchet. It looks odd, weighs differently, and instantly becomes a collectible rarity worth thousands. And the rarer the mistake, the higher the value. There are examples of coins like this that have reached into the tens of thousands at auction, all starting from a single mishap at the Denver Mint in 1979. Even coin grading services like PCGS and NGC have certified these errors, documenting their rarity and confirming their jaw-dropping auction results. A pristine, high-grade, dramatic 1979 D-era Susan B. Anthony dollar is a coin that can rewrite a collector's future. The 1979 P-era Susan B. Anthony dollar is one of those coins that turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. At first glance it looks like a simple dollar coin, the kind most people would overlook, toss in a drawer, or use at a vending machine. But what if I told you that inside this series, among the Philadelphia Mint strikes of 1979, are hidden treasures so rare that they can be worth hundreds, thousands, or even millions of dollars, a coin that continues to shock collectors with its history, its mistakes, and its unbelievable values at auction. The year was 1979, and the United States Mint decided to retire the bulky Eisenhower dollar and introduce a new, smaller-sized dollar coin that would be easier to use. They chose to honor Susan B. Anthony, the famous suffragist and women's rights leader, making her the first real woman to ever appear on a circulating U.S. coin. The design was historic. The idea was ambitious. But almost immediately there was a problem. The new dollar was too close in size, weight, and color to the quarter. Cashiers confused it. Vending machines rejected it. The public didn't care for it. And so, millions of these coins were struck but hardly loved. Yet among them, the Philadelphia Mint coins, especially those carrying strange minting errors, would one day become some of the most collectible modern US dollars ever created. The double die is one of the most sought-after categories of the 1979 P-era Susan B. Anthony dollar. When a die used to strike the coin is improperly prepared, the letters, numbers, or even parts of Liberty's portrait can show ghost-like doubling. On the 1979 P, collectors hunt for doubled lettering on the motto or on the date itself. A strong double die error can turn an ordinary dollar into a coin worth hundreds of dollars instantly. The more dramatic the doubling, the higher the price climbs, and some examples certified in top condition have been known to fetch thousands. But errors come in many forms. One of the most exciting types found on the 1979 P Susan B. Anthony dollar is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not struck directly in the center of the blank, leaving part of the design missing and part of the coin blank. A 5% or 10% off-center strike might bring in a few $100s, but when you find a 1979 P-era Susan B. Anthony dollar struck 40% or even 50% off-center with the date still visible, you are holding a coin that can bring $5,000 to $10,000, or more at auction. Each off-center coin is unique, like a fingerprint, and collectors will pay handsomely for these dramatic mistakes. But the rarest and most valuable 1979 P-era Susan B. Anthony dollar coins are the ones that combine multiple errors into a single piece. An off-center strike that also happens to be on the wrong planchet. A double die with a dramatic die clash. These hybrid errors are so rare that each one becomes a one-of-a-kind masterpiece. When they hit the auction block, the sky is the limit. Collectors know they may never see another one again, and the bidding wars drive the prices into the stratosphere. We're talking about coins that can sell for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and in the right circumstances, even millions. Now let's bring in some real-world numbers. Common 1979 P Susan B. Anthony dollars might only be worth $1 or $2. The wide rim variety in average condition might bring in $3,000 to $5,000, but in pristine, mint state grades, that same wide rim 1979 P can reach values of $1,000, $6,000, or even more. An off-center 1979 P Susan B. Anthony dollar has sold for well over $10,000. A wrong planchet strike has crossed the $20,000 threshold. And some spectacular multiple error coins are valued at $30,000 or more. Imagine a single dollar coin selling for more than the cost of a new luxury car. That's the reality of this hobby. And with every passing year, as collectors recognize the rarity of these pieces, the values continue to rise. The 1979 S-era Susan B. Anthony dollar is one of the most fascinating and valuable coins of modern American history, and it's one that continues to shock collectors with its secrets and its staggering auction prices. Imagine holding a dollar coin in your hand, the kind that most people would toss into a cash drawer or feed into a vending machine, and then discovering that it isn't just worth $1. Not $10. Not even $100. Some of these coins, because of rare errors and minting varieties, have sold for hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. The year was 1979, and the U.S. Mint made history by introducing the Susan B. Anthony dollar, the first small-sized dollar coin and the first to feature a real American woman. Susan B. Anthony, the legendary suffragist, appeared on the obverse, while the reverse carried the familiar eagle landing on the moon design, borrowed from the Eisenhower dollar. The idea was to make a more practical dollar coin, smaller and lighter than the Eisenhower, but still carrying national pride. The Mint struck the coins in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and it was at the San Francisco Mint where some of the most valuable and rarest errors ever recorded would be born. The wrong planchet strikes are even more dramatic. Imagine a 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar accidentally struck on a blank meant for a cent, nickel, quarter, or even a foreign coin. These are the ultimate minting mistakes, the kind of 1 in a billion errors that make headlines when they appear at auction. Some of these wrong planchet strikes have been valued in the tens of thousands, and if a truly spectacular discovery were made, say a proof strike on a silver planchet, the value could soar into the hundreds of thousands or even millions. But what makes the 1979 error Susan B. Anthony dollar so unique is the way multiple varieties and errors can combine to create one-of-a-kind pieces. Imagine a proof coin with a clear S mint mark, a double die obverse, and a dramatic die clash. Such a coin would be so rare that collectors would fight for it at auction, pushing the price into uncharted territory. Or picture a 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar struck on the wrong planchet, with an off-center strike, all in pristine proof condition. That would be the ultimate find, a coin so rare that its value could reach into the 6-figure or even 7-figure range. Let's talk about real numbers. A common 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar might only be worth a few dollars. Proof can bring $2,000 to $5,000 depending on condition. But the proof in high grades can reach $500, $1,000, or more. Add in a dramatic double die, and suddenly you're in the $5,000 to $10,000 range. Off-center proof strikes and wrong planchet errors can leap to $25,000, $50,000, or beyond. And when these coins hit major auction houses, the bidding wars can push them even higher. Some collectors estimate that the most spectacular 1979 error Susan B. Anthony dollar coins could be million-dollar treasures if the right example is discovered. So don't dismiss the Susan B. Anthony dollar. Don't overlook the S mint mark. Don't it's just pocket change, look closely, study the rim. Study the mint mark. Check for doubling, check for off-center strikes, weigh it carefully. Because that little dollar coin in your hand could be worth hundreds, thousands, or even millions. And that is the thrill of collecting.